Ever thought about creating a website that speaks directly to potential clients, partners, or investors? A portfolio that doesn't just showcase what you do, but communicates your vision and ambition in a way that leaves people impressed? Now imagine this. A sleek, modern website that's not only visually striking, but also smoothly animated to create a seamless user experience. We're talking about eye-catching transitions, interactive elements, and a design that feels alive. And the best part is, this is exactly what we'll be building today. If you're excited to get started, hit that like button and subscribe for more tutorials. Let's dive right into it. To get started, let's create a new empty folder on our desktop. I'll name it Lunar Landing Page. This will be the folder for our project. Next, drag and drop this folder into your Versus code. We'll be using Vite to initialize our React app, as it's super fast and perfect for modern projects. Open New Terminal. Run the following command to create a new Vite project. Select React, and for the variant, choose JavaScript. Once that's done, install the dependencies by running yarn. Great. Now let's start the development server to see what we've got so far. In the terminal, type yarn dev. Perfect. We've got our basic React app up and running. Now, let's move on to installing Tailwind CSS for styling. To install Tailwind CSS, we'll run a few commands. First, let's install Tailwind and its dependencies by running. Once installed, we'll initialize Tailwind by running this command. This creates two important files, tailwind.config.js and posts.config.js. Now let's configure Tailwind. Open the tailwind.config.js file and update the content.
Let's test if Tailwind is working by adding a simple H1 with some Tailwind CSS classes in our app.jsx. Awesome. Tailwind CSS is working perfectly. Before we build anything, let's set up a folder structure for our components. Inside the SRC folder, create a new folder called Components. This is where we'll keep all the pieces of our landing page. Now, inside this folder, we'll create 6 component files, one for each section of our landing page. Start by creating files for navbar, hero, insights, stats, pricing, testimonial, FAQ, and footer. Next, open app.jsx and import all these components. For now, let's just render them one after the other. This is a great starting point. Now we'll go through each of these components one by one and build them out with Tailwind CSS for styling and Framer Motion for animations. First things first, let's create the structure of our navbar. In your navbar.jsx file, first I'll wrap everything in a div that'll serve as the container for our navbar. We've created a simple structure, an H1 for the logo, an unordered list with some links, and a register button. Now let's move on to styling this navbar using Tailwind CSS. Alright, now we're going to style this navbar to make it look clean and responsive. I'll add some Tailwind utility classes to the elements for styling. Let's style the container div. Here we've added w4fif to make the navbar take up 80% of the screen's width and mauto to center it. We also use flex justify between items center to space the content evenly and align everything in the center. For the logo, we've added text XL for larger text and font bold to make it stand out. We've also used space X5 to add space between the item. Give the button some padding with PX5 and Pi2, added a border with border black, and made it round with rounded full. Now, let's make our navbar more dynamic with Framer Motion. First, install Framer Motion by running this command in your terminal: npm install Framer Motion. Once installed, we can import Motion from Framer Motion at the top of our file. Here we've used motion.ul to fade the entire list in with a slight delay. Each list item, motion.li, will scale up slightly when hovered using the while hover property and shrink slightly when clicked with while tap. Let's also animate the register button to scale up when hovered. We've added while hover and while tap properties to the button. This gives the button a nice scaling effect when hovered and clicked, adding a modern, interactive feel. And now let's make sure the navbar is responsive. We'll hide the navigation links on smaller screens and show them only on medium-sized screens and above. There you have it, a fully responsive and animated navbar. In the Hero section, we'll have two main areas. The first one will hold the heading, a short description, and buttons for interaction. The second one will feature an image that complements the text. We'll start with a small introductory text, followed by a bold headline to grab attention, and a brief description to explain the message. Now that we have the structure in place, it's time to style it. We'll set the width of the container to be 80% of the screen and center it using Margin Auto. We'll also add padding to the top and bottom of the section to give it some breathing room. Next, we'll use Flexbox to align the text and image side by side. On smaller screens, the content will stack vertically, but on larger screens, it will display in a row. We'll also space out the elements, ensuring there's enough room between the heading, description, and buttons. The buttons themselves will have rounded corners, padding, and distinct background colors for better visibility. The image will take up about a third of the width on larger screens, and we'll make sure it scales responsively on smaller devices. Now that the styling is complete, let's move on to adding animations. We want the text to fade in and slide in from the left as the user scrolls down the page. First, we'll define an animation that starts with the text slightly off-screen to the left with 0 opacity. As it comes into view, it will slide into place and fade in smoothly. For the buttons, we'll apply a similar fade-in effect, but with a slight delay so that they appear right after the text, creating a nice staggered animation. Finally, we'll animate the image. This time, we want it to slide in from the right while fading in, making the entire hero section feel dynamic and engaging. Next, we'll move on to the Insights section, where we'll showcase some key information in a card-based layout. This Insights section will showcase important information in a grid layout, with each piece of content displayed inside a card. Each card will contain an icon, a title, and a short description. We'll use Flexbox to arrange the cards horizontally. On smaller screens, Flexbox will naturally wrap the cards into multiple rows, making sure the layout remains responsive. Now, let's add an animation to the cards to make them more interactive. Using Framer Motion, we'll create a custom animation for the cards. When they first appear, we want them to fade in and slightly grow in size. To achieve this, we'll define a custom animation called card variant. Here's how it works. First, we'll create a hidden state where each card starts with 0 opacity and a smaller scale of a 0.8. This means the card will be slightly shrunken and invisible at the beginning. In the visible state, the card will scale up to its full size and become fully visible by transitioning to opacity 1 and a scale of 1. To make the animation more interesting, we'll introduce a delay based on the card's index. For example, the second card will appear slightly after the first and the third after the second. This staggered effect makes the animation flow smoothly. The delay and duration of the animation are controlled by the transition property, which is set to a duration of 0.5 seconds with an easing function of ease in out for smoothness. Each card will fade in and grow into place, creating a smooth, engaging effect as users scroll down the page. Next, let's move on to the next section. This component will contain the main layout for our pricing page, including the image and text elements. Everything is the same as the previous components. In testimonial component, define a data structure to store the testimonial information, such as the image, name, position, and feedback. In the frequently asked questions component, store some questions and answers. Use useState hook to manage the state of the FAQ sections open or closed. Use conditional rendering to show or hide the answer based on the state of the FAQ section. And lastly, the footer component. And that's it. We've built a fully responsive landing page using React, styled it with Tailwind CSS, and added smooth animations with Framer Motion. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome content. See you in the next video.